Japan is a sprawling archipelago, 2,500 kilometers in length. Synonymous throughout the world with high-tech manufacturing and expensive living in crowded metropolises. However, the northernmost island of Japan, Hokkaido, that was colonised less than 200 years ago, is almost a different country. Although few photos survive, the 19th century scroll paintings of the soldier Hirosawa Tokujiro record that Hokkaido was a frontier land for the Japanese timbermen, farmers, settlers, and soldiers who colonised the island. The trees, the local populations of grizzly bears and wolves, and the indigenous Aboriginal peoples all succumbed to the Meiji expansion of the mid-1800s. Today, the wolves are all forgotten victims of the strychnine poisoning campaigns of the late 1800s. But Hokkaido, with a population density of 5 times less than the national average, is still a wild country, with large uninhabited tracts of mountainous landscape. In winter, these areas become a frigid alpine wilderness, with the frozen landscape punctuated by active volcanoes and transected by streams fed from thermal springs. Cold and snow make huge areas inaccessible to man and a test of survival for the animals. Those that cannot migrate must adapt to the harsh conditions of winter or perish.
This is the story of the efforts of an international team consisting of a neuroscientist, a wildlife surgeon, and a vet scientist in training, who are attempting to reveal the life history of the most mysterious and secretive dog in the world.
As part of their research, our 3 scientists intend to trap 3 wild raccoon dogs from the surrounding forests in autumn. These animals will then be transferred to the local zoo and surgically implanted with sterile body temperature recorders. After each animal has fully recuperated, they will be fitted with radio transmitter collars, and the healthy animals will be released back into their home range before the onset of winter. Over winter, each animal's position will be occasionally monitored, and in spring of the following year, the animals will be re-trapped. After transfer to the zoo, the body temperature recorders will be removed, the animals will be allowed to fully recover, and then our experimental subjects will be freed, unharmed, back into the wild. It is hoped that the body temperature recordings obtained from these wild free-ranging animals will reveal what physiological strategies the raccoon dog uses to survive Japan's coldest and most inhospitable winters. The family of canids includes the well-known dogs, wolves, coyotes, jackals, foxes, and less well-known animals such as the South African Cape hunting dog and the subject of our story, the more distantly related raccoon dog. The raccoon dog is unusual among canids in several respects. It is the only canid to have a dark facial mask, to be omnivorous by choice, but like many they have an inability to bark. In Hokkaido, the raccoon dog lives communally in small groups in underground dens, and most relevant to our story, they are reported to hibernate in winter. The raccoon dog is a mysterious, mythical, and if Japanese folk tales are to be believed, a murderously untrustworthy creature. The raccoon dog has a very awkward Latin name, Nicertoroides prosinoides, and you have no idea how much practice went into that. Not surprisingly, nobody uses this name. Nicertoroides means nighttime wanderer, but like everything about the raccoon dog, this is not an absolute. Prosinoide means like raccoons, which would appear to be true. Fossil records indicate that canid-like animals evolved in the landmass that would correspond to North America about 9 million years ago. These animals spread to Asia, Europe, and eventually to Africa. By 5 to 3 million years ago, 6 species of large raccoon dog were widely distributed in Europe and Asia. In Europe, the species went extinct, but in Asia, a single species survived and gave rise to the smaller raccoon dog species alive today. The raccoon dog is endemic to the Asia-Siberian region, being reported to exist from Vietnam in the south to the Kamchatka coast in the north and into the main islands of Japan. However, thousands of raccoon dogs from the Kamchatka region were introduced into eastern Russia near Finland between 1929 and 1950 to establish fur farming. Escapees were inevitable, and the now wild species is very successful. The population has spread through Norway, into Central Europe, to the Netherlands. Thus, 3 million years later, with a little help from mankind, the raccoon dog has returned to its ancient European territories. Back in Asia, the endemic distribution of the raccoon dog crosses many borders, and naturally enough, each language gives the raccoon dog a name. In contrast with the scientific Linnaean system of binomial nomenclature that is based upon the shared ancestry of plants, Chinese and Japanese written script combine symbols or characters that describe a function or property of the object being named. By 800 AD, Chinese script for raccoon dog combines the characters for animal, meat, and individual. Why individual? A long time ago somebody knew, but today it's just a mystery. At this time, Japan lacked a written script, and Japanese scholar monks adopted Chinese as their written text and forced it to fit the Japanese spoken language. It's amazing what you can find in the library. Etymological dictionaries, such as this one, document that, as would be expected, meanings were lost or warped in translation, and originally this same Chinese character combination was mistakenly used to name wild cats in Japan. By 1200 AD, Japanese used a slightly different character combination to name a group of animals that included the raccoon dog, the wildcat, and ferret. Today, the combination of characters for animal, isolated countryside only apply to the raccoon dog. In Japan, the raccoon dog is called the Tanuki, and that is how we will refer to them from now on. Now, to get back to a little biology. In testament to the almost universal utilisation of a functional mechanism, everywhere you look, every living plant, tree, or flower, every insect, every bird, every fish, every animal, and every human being you can see with the naked eye is made up of eukaryotic cells with a nucleus that contains chromosomes. Chromosomes are tight assemblages of genes which are composed of DNA. Each animal or plant species is defined by its DNA or genetic complement. Human somatic cells have 46 chromosomes. Monkeys have 48. The cellular chromosomal complement of a species is conserved carefully as loss or reshuffling during cell replication that results in a change in the number of chromosomes invariably produces infertility in the offspring or death. However, the case of the Tanuki is special. Raccoon dogs in Korea, China, Russia all have 56 chromosomes in their cells, but the Japanese Tanuki has only 42 chromosomes. In humans, this type of fusion occurs mostly between chromosomes 13 and 14 at a rate of 1 in 1,300 persons. The occurrence of 7 chromosomal fusions in people would result in certain death. For the Tanuki, this is clearly not the case, but it does mean that the Japanese Tanuki is genetically distinct from its mainland cousins and appears to be undergoing incipient speciation. Most interestingly, Japanese Tanuki on Honshu, Kyushu and Hokkaido have 42 chromosomes, demonstrating that they are all related and all derived from one original Eve Tanuki mother. It is not clear when the raccoon dog entered Japan. The Japanese archipelago has been repeatedly connected and disconnected from the Asian mainland during the coming and going of past ice ages. In the last ice age, about 18,000 to 15,000 years ago, the accumulation of water in large glaciers in North America, Greenland and Europe decreased the sea about 100 metres below the present level. At this time, southern Japan was not connected to Korea, but Hokkaido was connected to the Russian mainland, and animals, including wolves, grizzly bears, people and tanukis, could populate Sakhalin and Hokkaido and the Kurils by walking across the land bridges. However, the universal distribution of genetically identical forms of the tanuki throughout Japan remains an enigma to explain, since even in those times Hokkaido was not connected to the main island of Japan because of the deep water of the Tsugaru Strait. Thomas Blackstone was the first to document that the species of bears, wolves, marmots, deers, voles, monkeys and rodents are different between the two islands of Honshu and Hokkaido. One can only wonder at the circumstances that overlapped to enable a single, pregnant, genetically abnormal Eve Tanuki to cross into Hokkaido. The ice age ended and the sea level rose. Then her offspring magically survived a crossing of the Tsugaru Strait to Honshu when so many other species could not. Perhaps the explanation lies not with magic, but with the ancient Ainu people, their boats, and passenger or stowaway tanuki. The original inhabitants of the northern half of Honshu and the islands of Hokkaido, Sakhalin, and the Kurils were the Ainu people, who were physically, culturally, and linguistically distinct from the people of the Yayoi rice culture of southern Japan, who are the ancestors of the modern Japanese people. Pressures to assimilate into Japanese society has resulted in the virtual loss of the Ainu language and culture, and today a shadow of their former cultural depth is preserved in small local museums and tourist shops. In Ainu language, the raccoon dog was called the moyuk, meaning quiet, small animal. The dissimilarity of the sound moyuk and tanuki make it probable that tanuki is not derived from the Ainu and is a Japanese word of considerable antiquity. In Japanese culture, the tanuki has a long but somewhat inglorious past. In the Japanese animist religion of Shinto, many animals, including foxes, birds, a number of snakes, turtles, monkeys, cows, pigs, deer, and lion dogs, all have been elevated to the status of God's helpers and have Shinto shrines dedicated to them in recognition of this important position. The tanuki, however, despite being a native of Japan, has never attained this revered status.
Folktales often cryptically encompass forgotten truths. In Japanese folktales, such as Kachikachiyama, Bunbun Chagama, the Tanuki Mukashi Banashi, and also in folk songs, the Tanuki is personified as a troublesome, tricky character, prone to lying, stealing, cheating, who can change his shape into a teapot or money, who can prankishly vanish from sight, but is also capable of the brutal murder of elderly farmers' wives.